For centuries, the Galactic Empire was the most powerful force anyone in the universe had ever seen. They ruled thousands of star systems, and almost every species that lived in those systems had learned the same lesson. If the Empire came, you surrendered, or you disappeared. Their fleets were massive, stretching across hundreds of light years with battleships bigger than cities and weapons capable of destroying entire worlds in moments. Everywhere the Empire went, fear followed like a shadow. No one dared to fight them. The Empire had crushed civilizations that had once considered themselves unstoppable. And yet, despite all this power, they had one weakness: arrogance. They believed nothing could resist them, nothing could surprise them. It was in this context that the Empire's scanners picked up a small blue planet in a quiet spiral arm of the galaxy. The planet was called Earth, and at first glance it seemed insignificant. The data suggested that the humans living there were technologically backward, scattered, and weak. Their civilization was young compared to the ancient empires of the stars. Their weapons were primitive, and their military strategies, according to the Empire's calculations, were laughable. The High Council of the Galactic Empire did not hesitate. They decided that Earth would be conquered, not because it was rich in resources, but because it would be an easy addition to their growing empire. The preparations for the invasion were meticulous, as always. The Empire sent its most advanced warships and fleets toward Earth. Their commanders reviewed every detail, confident that there would be no resistance that mattered. Every simulation they ran showed the same outcome. Humans would surrender quickly and the planet would be annexed with minimal effort. In the halls of the High Council, plans for colonization and governance were already underway. They spoke about Earth with the same casual tone one might use when talking about a remote outpost. They did not even consider the possibility of failure. Meanwhile, back on Earth, life went on as usual. People lived their daily routines, unaware of the eyes from the stars that had just locked onto their planet. Cities buzzed with activity. Children played in streets. Offices hummed with computers and conversations, and people went about their lives thinking only of the world immediately around them. Yet somewhere beneath the surface, hidden from public view, the world was quietly preparing. Governments had long been aware of unusual signals from space. There were secret programs that studied alien technology and watched the stars day and night. They were not just studying for curiosity, they were preparing for the day when humanity would be threatened. When the Empire first sent its message to Earth, demanding surrender, it was received in the highest offices and military command centers. The transmission was chilling. It came as a broadcast to every major city and capital on the planet in dozens of languages, yet its meaning was the same. Kneel or be destroyed. Resistance is futile. Governments around the world convened emergency meetings, but instead of panic, a strange calm settled over them. There were no dramatic public statements, no chaos in the streets, no evacuation orders. Instead, encrypted messages were sent across secure channels. And the human leaders prepared a response that was simple, yet unlike anything the Empire expected. The message sent back to the Empire was brief, almost casual. Do not proceed. It was not a threat, but a warning. The Empire's commanders laughed at it. How could a planet filled with primitive humans dare to issue such a warning to the greatest force in the galaxy? They ignored it, labeling it a bluff, and began final preparations for the invasion. The Empire believed that any resistance would crumble once their fleets arrived. They believed that humans were unworthy opponents. Little did they know, Earth was not what it seemed. The planet had been quietly studying alien encounters for decades, even centuries. Secret programs had reverse-engineered alien technology recovered from previous expeditions. Humans had learned how to adapt, how to defend themselves, and how to turn any potential weakness into a weapon. They had developed technology and strategies far beyond what the Empire imagined. The calm that settled over the planet's leaders was not fear. It was confidence, born from careful preparation and an understanding of the Empire's arrogance. As the Empire's fleets drew closer, the humans observed silently. Satellites and advanced radar systems monitored every ship and every movement. The Empire's warships were impressive, each one a floating fortress with layers of armor and hundreds of weapons. But for Earth's hidden defense networks, they were not invincible. Humans had designed systems capable of disrupting and neutralizing far more powerful technology. They had learned the language of electromagnetic fields, quantum communications, and energy shields. What the Empire thought were weaknesses were, in fact, opportunities. And so the stage was set. The Empire, full of confidence and arrogance, was about to make a critical mistake, underestimating humanity. They did not know that the planet they had labeled as primitive was not only prepared for defense but capable of striking back in ways that could change the galaxy forever. On the surface, people continued with their lives, completely unaware of the approaching danger. But deep within hidden bases, command centers, and secret laboratories, humans were watching. Every movement of the invading fleet was tracked. Every possible outcome had been simulated. Every potential attack was planned for, countered, and neutralized in theory. The calm before the storm was deliberate. Humanity had learned long ago that arrogance, no matter how powerful, could be its own undoing. And now, as the Galactic Empire approached, ready to take what they believed was rightfully theirs, they would learn this lesson firsthand. The first part of the story ends here with tension thick in the air. The Empire's confidence was at its peak, and they believed that victory was already theirs. Humans, on the other hand, had prepared for centuries in silence, quietly building a force that the Empire could never have imagined. The moment of contact was approaching, and the universe was about to witness an event that would forever change its understanding of Earth and humanity. In this first part, the story establishes the contrast between the Empire's arrogance and humanity's quiet preparation. It shows the reader why humans should not be underestimated, without revealing the full extent of their power yet. The tension builds naturally, keeping the audience engaged, wondering what happens when these two forces finally meet. The Galactic Empire had been watching Earth from the shadows of space for weeks. Their massive warships hovered silently in orbit, their sensors scanning every inch of the planet below. They expected chaos. They expected fear. They expected the humans to beg for mercy. Instead, what they found was silence. Cities continued their daily routines. Cars moved along streets. Lights blinked on skyscrapers, and the hum of human activity seemed completely unaffected by the fleet looming above. The Empire's commanders were puzzled. How could a species so primitive show no fear in the face of ultimate power? Finally, the Empire decided to make the first contact. A massive broadcast was sent down to every major city on Earth simultaneously. In multiple languages, the message was clear and terrifying. Surrender or face total annihilation. Your resistance is futile. Compliance will ensure your survival. Defiance will bring your destruction. Every government in the world received this message in their most secure channels, and people in power felt the weight of the moment. For the first time, humanity faced a threat it could not hide from. Yet even in the highest offices, there was no panic. Instead, a quiet focus took over. Humans had been preparing for this moment for decades, though most people didn't even know it. Beneath the surface of everyday life, hidden command centers were coming to life. Scientists, military leaders, and engineers, people from all corners of the globe, were coordinating an effort that had been planned in secret. They knew the Empire's arrogance was their weakness. They knew the invaders would assume humans were weak, scattered, and disorganized. That assumption was about to cost them everything. The first human response was simple but deliberate. A single transmission sent using advanced encryption and technologies unknown to the Empire reached the fleet. Do not proceed. It was not a threat. It was not even a warning in the traditional sense. It was a statement calm and precise, as if humanity was saying, "We are ready and you will regret this." The Empire's high command laughed. They thought it was a bluff. How could a planet with no previous history of interstellar warfare dare to issue such a warning? The invaders assumed the humans were scared and were simply stalling for time. They underestimated the depth of human planning. Arrogance had blinded them. While the Empire prepared their assault, humans quietly put their plans into motion. Cities that appeared normal were hiding more than anyone could imagine. Underground bunkers, hidden satellites, and secret bases were buzzing with activity. For decades, humans had developed a network capable of coordinating global defense in moments. They had studied alien technologies from previous encounters, technology that had never been shared publicly. Every piece of data collected had been analyzed, reverse-engineered, and improved upon. The humans had learned how to neutralize even the most advanced threats from beyond their world. From orbit, the Empire began to deploy their first wave of ships. They expected to intimidate humans with their sheer size and firepower. The fleet was massive, stretching for miles, each vessel armed with weapons that could obliterate entire cities in minutes. Thousands of ships descended toward Earth, confident that resistance was impossible. They had not anticipated that the humans had been quietly preparing for precisely this moment. As the invaders entered Earth's atmosphere, their sensors began to malfunction. Communications broke down. Navigation systems, which had been reliable across thousands of light years, went haywire. Entire fleets lost their way. Ships that were supposed to dominate the skies were suddenly disoriented, as if invisible forces were working against them. The humans did nothing visible at this stage. No missiles were launched. No guns fired. All they did was watch as the Empire stumbled into the first stage of its own disaster. This confusion was just the beginning. Humans had mastered electromagnetic control, a technology the Empire did not understand. Using hidden satellites, underground generators, and advanced quantum systems, they were able to interfere with the invaders' electronics. Weapons failed to fire, shields collapsed, and starships that had once been considered unstoppable were rendered useless. The Empire had never faced a species capable of such precise, silent, and overwhelming control. Meanwhile, on the ground, human leaders coordinated their next steps. Scientists monitored the incoming fleet. Engineers readjusted defense systems, and military strategists ensured that every possible angle was covered. There was no chaos, no panic. Every action had been rehearsed, every reaction anticipated. The humans had learned to operate not just as individuals, but as a single global organism, moving in perfect coordination. It was this unity, something the Empire could not comprehend, that gave humanity its greatest advantage. The first direct contact was terrifying for the Empire. Their ships, confident in their superiority, suddenly faced a reality they had never imagined. Entire sections of their fleet vanished without explanation. Weapons that were designed to annihilate planets malfunctioned instantly. Communication with command centers broke down. Confusion turned into fear. For the first time in centuries, the invaders realized they were dealing with a species that did not respond like any other they had encountered. The humans, however, remained calm. They did not celebrate, they did not broadcast victories, and they did not taunt the invaders. Their actions were precise, controlled, and silent. The Empire could not see the complexity of the defenses being activated. They could only see the results: their ships falling from the sky, their weapons failing, their plans crumbling. The humans had turned the planet into a fortress, one that required no visible army to defend. In addition to technology, humans had prepared psychological strategies. The Empire's arrogance had blinded them, and the humans exploited this. By remaining calm and controlled, they created doubt among the invaders. Commanders began questioning orders. Crews feared unseen attacks, and morale started to collapse. A fleet that had once seemed unstoppable now faced the impossible, an enemy that was everywhere at once yet nowhere at all. As hours passed, the Empire's first wave of assault was completely neutralized. Ships that had once been symbols of terror were now drifting, powerless, and abandoned. The humans had achieved this without firing a single shot from the surface. Their preparation, intelligence, and understanding of the invaders' technology had made this possible. It was a display of power unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Yet, despite this victory, humans did not underestimate the threat. They knew this was only the beginning. The Empire would not give up easily. The next wave could be stronger, more aggressive, and potentially more dangerous. Humans continued to monitor, adjust, and prepare. Every possible outcome had been considered, and contingency plans were in place for every scenario. They were ready for the next stage of the battle, whatever it might be. The first contact had already changed the course of history. The Empire, confident in its power, had been humbled by a species it had considered weak. The humans, on the other hand, had proven that careful preparation, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the most terrifying threats. The silence of the humans had been their strength, and the calm before the storm had allowed them to strike with precision. By the end of the first day, the galaxy had begun to whisper rumors about Earth. Reports of the invaders' failure reached other star systems. No one had ever seen a fleet so powerful be neutralized so quickly. Other civilizations that had once been afraid to resist the Empire began to wonder, could humans be the key to challenging the tyranny of the stars? And while the Empire regrouped and planned its next move, the humans remained hidden, silent, and ready, proving that the planet was far from defenseless. In Part 2, the story focuses on the first contact between the Galactic Empire and humanity. It highlights the calm intelligence, preparation, and hidden power of humans. The tension rises naturally, showing the contrast between the invaders' arrogance and humanity's preparedness. The audience remains engaged, waiting to see what humans will do next and how the Empire will react to this unexpected resistance. The day the Galactic Empire's fleet entered Earth's atmosphere, the humans watched quietly. From orbit, the invaders' massive warships descended with a confidence that had been unshakable for centuries. The Empire's commanders believed that once they were close to the planet, humanity would finally understand the futility of resistance. They believed they had arrived at a world that would surrender in fear. They could not have been more wrong. As the first wave of ships passed through the upper layers of the atmosphere, something unusual began to happen. Their navigation systems faltered. Instruments that had guided them perfectly across thousands of light years now sent strange, confusing readings. A warship that had been tracking a major city suddenly veered off course, spinning out of control. Another ship preparing to fire reported a complete failure of its weapons. Panic began to ripple through the Empire's ranks, and the first cracks in their confidence appeared. On Earth, the humans remained calm. There were no sirens blaring, no frantic orders given. Everything seemed normal on the surface, as if the world had not noticed the massive fleet overhead. Yet beneath the cities, in hidden command centers, humans monitored every movement of the invaders in real time. They had anticipated these exact malfunctions. Using electromagnetic fields, quantum interference, and advanced satellite systems, humans were disrupting the Empire's technology before the invaders even knew what had happened. Every failure was intentional, every malfunction carefully orchestrated. The humans had turned the planet into a silent trap. The Empire, realizing that their ships were no longer functioning properly, scrambled to regain control. Commanders barked orders, crews worked frantically to fix their instruments, but it was too late. The humans had anticipated every attempt at recovery. Systems that were supposedly invincible were failing one by one. Ships that were supposed to terrify entire civilizations were suddenly helpless, drifting in the sky like empty shells. For the first time, the invaders realized that the humans were not what they seemed. From the surface of Earth, civilians saw nothing out of the ordinary. The streets were alive with daily activity. Children played in parks, vehicles moved along highways, and the hum of life continued as if nothing were happening. Yet beneath the surface, humans were quietly coordinating the next steps of their defense. Using advanced drones, automated defense systems, and unmanned spacecraft, they prepared to respond to any further aggression from the Empire. The humans had learned that true power was not always about showing force, but about control, precision, and timing. As the Empire attempted to regroup, humans began their counterattack. Unlike the massive, noisy battles the invaders were used to, this response was silent and deadly. Unmanned drones, invisible to the naked eye, moved into position. Rail cannons, hidden in mountains and deep underground, locked onto enemy ships. Energy pulses disrupted navigation and weapon systems. The first strikes were precise, dismantling entire squads of ships without warning. The Empire was stunned. Their simulations had never predicted this level of effectiveness from a primitive species. Panic spread among the invaders. Communications between ships became unreliable. Crews began to question their commanders, unsure if they could trust the orders they were receiving. The humans had created confusion without ever appearing on the battlefield. Every move of the Empire was anticipated, and every weakness exploited. What should have been a swift invasion was turning into chaos for the first time in the Empire's history. On the ground, humans coordinated with an efficiency that the invaders could not comprehend. Scientists analyzed incoming data instantly, adjusting electromagnetic fields and targeting systems in real time. Engineers monitored every power source, ensuring that the hidden rail cannons, energy disruptors, and drones were functioning perfectly. Military leaders orchestrated every strike with meticulous precision. The humans worked as a single organism, a coordinated force of intelligence and technology that the Empire had never seen before. Despite the overwhelming odds, humans did not celebrate or taunt the invaders. Their actions were calculated, silent, and controlled. They knew that arrogance had blinded the Empire, and they used it to their advantage. The more the invaders struggled, the more exposed they became. Ships drifted uncontrollably, weapons backfired, and entire squadrons vanished from sensors. The humans had turned a planet once thought defenseless into a fortress capable of striking anywhere at any time. The Empire's commanders, desperate for answers, tried to regroup and launch a counteroffensive. They ordered ships to retreat and reorganize, hoping to overwhelm the humans with superior numbers. But humans had anticipated this as well. Every escape route, every formation, every tactical move was monitored and countered. Invisible drones and hidden energy systems forced retreating ships into zones where they could be disabled without firing a single visible shot. It was a lesson in strategy, control, and patience, qualities the Empire had long considered inferior. The invaders began to realize that this was no ordinary defense. Humans had been visited before by alien scouts, but instead of being destroyed in one strike, humanity had quietly adapted and prepared for this exact moment. They had studied alien technology, reverse-engineered it, and created systems far more advanced than anyone could imagine. Every calculation the Empire made had been wrong. Every assumption about human weakness had been proven false. From the surface, civilians continued their daily lives, completely unaware of the unfolding battle above. Some noticed unusual patterns in the sky or fleeting flashes of light, but most thought it was natural phenomena or technical malfunctions. The humans had perfected the art of invisible defense. The Empire could see the destruction, the failures, and the confusion, but they could not locate the source. It was as if Earth itself had become a living, intelligent weapon, defending its inhabitants without revealing its full power. Hours passed, and the first wave of the Empire's assault was completely neutralized. Ships that had once been symbols of terror now floated powerless, lost in Earth's atmosphere. The invaders had underestimated humanity, and their arrogance had led to their first defeat in centuries. The humans had achieved this without risking lives on the surface, without showing their full capabilities, and without giving the Empire a chance to retaliate effectively. Despite this success, humans remained vigilant. They knew the Empire would not give up easily. Reinforcements could arrive, new strategies could be attempted, and the next wave might be stronger. Every moment was used to analyze, prepare, and strengthen defenses. Humans were patient, knowing that true victory came not from brute force alone, but from intelligence, unity, and precision. The first day of direct conflict ended with the Empire stunned and disoriented. Ships were destroyed or disabled, communications were disrupted, and confidence among the invaders had collapsed. Humanity had proven that a species they considered weak was, in fact, capable of extraordinary resistance. The galaxy would begin to take notice even if the humans themselves remained quiet about their victory. Part 3 establishes the first real battle between humans and the Empire. It emphasizes strategy, intelligence, and preparation rather than brute force. The audience experiences tension, suspense, and awe as humanity quietly neutralizes a powerful alien fleet. The story continues to build anticipation for the next stages, showing that humans are not only defending themselves, but outmatching an entire empire in ways the invaders cannot understand. By the time the Galactic Empire realized that their initial assault had failed, humanity had already shifted from defense to counterattack. The first wave of invaders had stumbled into the planet's invisible defenses, but the humans were far from finished. From hidden command centers beneath mountains, beneath oceans, and deep underground, the leaders of Earth coordinated a response that was precise, controlled, and devastating. Every move the Empire made was tracked, every weakness analyzed, and every opportunity seized. The Empire's warships, which had once inspired terror across the galaxy, now floated helplessly, struggling to regain control. Human scientists had studied the very essence of their technology and discovered ways to disable it before it could even be used. Communication arrays failed. Energy shields collapsed. Weapons designed to obliterate entire cities no longer functioned. The Empire's confidence, built over centuries of victories, began to crumble. Their arrogance had blinded them, and now they were paying the price. As the humans prepared their counterstrike, drones and unmanned spacecraft emerged from hidden facilities all over the world. These were not ordinary machines. They were advanced beyond anything the Empire had ever seen. They moved with silent precision, targeting the invaders' ships with deadly accuracy. Energy pulses disrupted navigation systems, while rail cannons hidden deep underground fired projectiles that could punch through the thickest armor. Entire squadrons of the Empire's fleet were destroyed before they even realized what had happened. The attack was surgical. No human life was at risk. No cities were destroyed, and yet the invaders were being eliminated at a rate that seemed impossible. It was not brute force that won the day. It was intelligence, preparation, and technology. Humans had turned their planet into a fortress, one that could strike anywhere at any time without revealing its secrets. The Empire had assumed that Earth would resist like a primitive world, but they had underestimated the ingenuity, patience, and determination of humanity. From orbit, the scene was almost surreal. The sky was filled with massive ships, but many of them were drifting powerless, their weapons useless, their crews panicked and disoriented. Communications between vessels broke down as invisible systems disabled their equipment. The Empire's commander shouted orders that could not be received. What should have been a coordinated attack had become chaos. The humans had not only defended their planet, they had turned the tables completely. While the invaders struggled, humans on the surface remained calm. Life continued in the cities, seemingly unaffected by the enormous battle above. Streets were busy with normal activity. People moved about their lives, oblivious to the destruction happening in orbit. The contrast was striking. From above, the Empire saw chaos. From below, humans saw control. It was a reminder that appearances could be deceiving, and that true power often worked in silence. As the counterstrike intensified, the Empire realized they were dealing with something entirely new. Humans were not only defending, they were actively dismantling the invaders' fleet. Hidden rail cannons fired with pinpoint accuracy, striking ships in ways the Empire had never anticipated. Energy disruptors disabled weapons before they could fire. Unmanned drones intercepted any attempts at retaliation. Every tactic the Empire tried failed. They were fighting an enemy who had studied them, learned their weaknesses, and anticipated their every move. Panic spread through the invaders' ranks. The Empire's confidence, which had once been absolute, was shattered. Crews who had faced countless battles now questioned whether they could survive this one. Commanders scrambled to issue new orders, but the humans had already accounted for every possible scenario. Retreating ships were funneled into zones where they could be neutralized. Reinforcements sent to support the initial wave were intercepted and destroyed before they even reached the planet. The humans had created a perfect balance between offense and defense. They could strike anywhere yet remain invisible. They could destroy without revealing the source of their power. Every move was coordinated through a global network that combined technology, strategy, and human intelligence. It was a display of power unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Empire's assumption that humans were weak, divided, and unprepared had been completely wrong. As the battle continued, the Empire faced losses that were unprecedented. Ships that had once symbolized ultimate power were now destroyed or disabled. Crews were trapped in space, unable to call for help. Communication lines had failed. Orders were ignored or impossible to execute. The humans had created a situation where the invaders could not even fight effectively. Every attempt to regroup was countered. Every strategy anticipated. It was a complete reversal of the expected outcome. Even as destruction rained down on their fleet, the humans remained disciplined. They did not celebrate prematurely. Every strike was calculated, every response measured. There was no arrogance, no unnecessary display of force, only precise, controlled action. They had learned that patience, intelligence, and strategy were more powerful than brute strength. And it was this patience and control that allowed them to dominate the battle without exposing themselves to risk. For the Empire, the realization was horrifying. They had never encountered a species capable of such coordination, such intelligence, and such control over technology. Every victory they had achieved in the past now seemed meaningless in comparison to the human response. They had assumed superiority, but the humans had proved them wrong in every way. Their arrogance had become their weakness, and they were paying the price. As the counterstrike reached its peak, the Empire's fleet was in full retreat. Ships that had once been symbols of fear were now drifting, powerless and defeated. The humans had not only defended their planet, they had demonstrated a level of technological mastery and strategic intelligence that was beyond anything the Empire had imagined. The battle was not over, but the message was clear. Earth would not be conquered, and any further aggression would be met with overwhelming, unstoppable force. From the surface, people went about their lives, unaware of the full scale of the battle. Some glimpsed flashes of light in the sky, some heard distant rumbling. But most did not notice the extraordinary events unfolding above them. To the world, it seemed as though Earth had survived an invisible threat with no damage. The truth, however, was far more astonishing. Humanity had not only survived, they had dominated. They had turned the tide of a battle that should have ended in their destruction, and made victory possible before the invaders even realized what had happened. As night fell, the skies above Earth were quiet once more. The Empire had retreated, its confidence shattered, its fleet crippled. The humans had proven something remarkable. That preparation, intelligence, unity, and patience could overcome even the most overwhelming power. The planet had become a fortress, a weapon, and a lesson in humility for any who underestimated it. Part 4 shows humanity's full counterstrike in action. The tension, suspense, and strategic brilliance of humans take center stage. The Empire's arrogance is exposed, and the audience experiences awe and engagement as humans demonstrate control and intelligence far beyond what anyone expected. The story builds anticipation for the next parts, showing that the humans are not just defending, they are redefining the rules of power in the galaxy. The Galactic Empire had retreated, but the shock of what had just happened was still sinking in. Their fleet, once considered unstoppable, had been crippled within hours. Commanders and scientists on the surviving ships could hardly believe what they had witnessed. The humans they had assumed to be weak and primitive had not only defended their planet, they had destroyed entire battalions of the Empire's best ships, using methods that the invaders could not understand. The arrogance that had been the Empire's greatest strength had now become its deepest vulnerability. For the first time in its long history, the Empire began to ask questions they had never considered. How could a species so young in the galactic timeline have such advanced technology? How could humans have anticipated every possible move? How could a planet that seemed small, quiet, and insignificant have become such an impenetrable fortress? These questions did not have immediate answers, and that uncertainty began to spread fear among the ranks. The humans, however, did not celebrate. They had faced the Empire before, though in smaller encounters that had remained secret from the public. Over centuries, humanity had learned to hide, adapt, and prepare. Earth had been visited by alien scouts, raiders, and observers many times, and none had survived encounters with humans that were fully prepared. Each encounter had been studied, every piece of alien technology analyzed and improved upon. Humans had used every visit as an opportunity to learn, to adapt, and to strengthen themselves. The Empire had walked into a trap laid over centuries without even realizing it. While the Empire struggled to understand, humans quietly continued their work. Every disabled ship, every destroyed vessel, every failed attack was carefully recorded and analyzed. Engineers and scientists studied the invaders' technology to understand what had worked, what had failed, and what might be possible if the Empire tried again. Humans were methodical and precise. They did not act out of pride or vengeance. They acted to protect their world and to prepare for the future. From orbit, the few surviving ships of the Empire sent desperate messages to the High Council. Reports of the fleet's destruction were filled with disbelief and terror. Commanders described situations that seemed impossible: weapons failing without explanation, ships vanishing from sensors, drones appearing from nowhere and striking with deadly accuracy. The messages revealed one common theme. The humans were not only defending themselves, they were omnipresent, unseen, and incomprehensible. The High Council could not ignore the reports. Messages poured in from across the galaxy. Spies, scouts, and diplomats who had monitored Earth were forced to admit the truth. This planet was unlike any other. Earth was not weak, primitive, or insignificant. It was a death world. A species that had survived countless challenges on its own planet had now proven capable of defending itself against the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known. The revelation sent shockwaves through the council chambers. Entire systems began to question the Empire's authority. If humans could destroy a fleet of this magnitude, what hope did any other species have? On Earth, the humans remained calm. Life continued as usual on the surface. Cities bustled, children played, and daily routines went on without interruption. The contrast between the normalcy of life and the chaos experienced by the invaders was striking. Humans had created a planet that was both ordinary and extraordinary. To the Empire, it was a trap and a fortress. To the people living on it, it was home, and nothing more needed to be said. In secret command centers, humans began analyzing what they had learned from the encounter. Every failure of the invaders, every weakness exposed, was studied in detail. They had prepared for this possibility for decades, and now they were refining their defenses further. New systems were activated, hidden networks were expanded, and contingencies were adjusted. Humans knew that the Empire would not give up easily, and they were ready for every possible scenario. Preparation was never complete. The more the humans learned, the stronger they became. Meanwhile, the Empire struggled to regroup. Their fleet was shattered, their confidence destroyed, and their pride wounded. Leaders who had once spoken of Earth as an easy target now hesitated. Every decision was second-guessed, every strategy scrutinized. The arrogance that had carried them through centuries of conquest was replaced by fear, uncertainty, and doubt. They began to wonder if humans were not just a powerful species, but perhaps the most dangerous in the galaxy. The terrifying truth for the Empire was simple. Humans had learned from every encounter. Every species that had underestimated them had paid the price. Every ship, every scout, every raider that had visited Earth before had disappeared. Humans were patient, intelligent, and relentless. They had studied the galaxy and learned how to survive, and now, they had proven they could dominate. The Empire's leaders realized that this planet was not just defended. It was a challenge the galaxy had never seen. As weeks passed, the Empire sent small groups of ships to probe Earth's defenses. Each attempt ended in failure. Every incursion was met with precision, intelligence, and overwhelming control. Humans had created systems that were impossible to predict. Drones struck without warning, energy disruptors disabled ships silently, and hidden rail cannons targeted any attempt at aggression with deadly accuracy. No visible army was required, no massive displays of force were needed. The humans had turned defense into an art form, and the Empire had no answers. The whispers spread beyond the battle. Other civilizations began to take notice. Spies, traitors, and diplomats who had once feared the Empire now whispered about humans in hushed tones. Reports of Earth's defenses reached distant star systems. Tales of the planet that could destroy an entire fleet with minimal effort became legend. The humans had become a subject of awe, mystery, and fear. The Empire's failure was no longer private. It was a warning to the galaxy: never underestimate Earth. Despite all this, humans remained humble. There were no grand displays, no speeches, no broadcasts of victory. The world carried on as it always had. The counterattack and analysis continued silently. Scientists improved systems, engineers refined weapons, and strategists adjusted plans. Humanity understood that the galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but they had learned a crucial lesson. Survival depended on preparation, intelligence, and unity. These qualities, honed over centuries, had allowed them to survive encounters with countless invaders. Now they had shown the galaxy that Earth was not to be trifled with. The Empire, on the other hand, was forced to face a reality they had never considered. The humans were not just strong, they were terrifying. Every assumption about weakness, primitiveness, and inferiority was wrong. Humans had evolved in ways that the Empire could not understand. Their technology, their strategies, their patience, and their unity were unmatched. For the first time, the Empire experienced true fear. They realized that this planet, this species, was not only capable of defending itself, it could potentially reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. In secret, humans began to prepare for future encounters. They did not wait for the Empire to make the next move, they anticipated it. Every simulation, every calculation, every defensive system was refined. They were ready for reinforcements, for new strategies, and for anything the Empire could send. Humanity had learned that strength was not in the weapons themselves, but in knowledge, preparation, and the ability to adapt. The galaxy had underestimated them for too long, and they would not make that mistake again. By the end of Part 5, the Empire had been humbled, its arrogance shattered, and its perception of humanity forever changed. The humans had revealed their true nature, not through aggression, but through preparation, intelligence, and silent control. The galaxy began to whisper of Earth, not as a planet to be conquered, but as a force to be reckoned with. And while life on Earth continued as usual, hidden beneath the surface was a civilization ready to defend itself against any threat, no matter how powerful. The battle was over, but the echoes of humanity's triumph reverberated across the galaxy. The Galactic Empire, once considered the ultimate power in the universe, had been humbled. Their fleet lay in ruins, and their pride had been shattered. For centuries, they had dominated countless civilizations, spreading fear wherever they went. Yet now, a species they had dismissed as primitive had proven that appearances could be deceiving. Earth was no longer just a small, quiet planet. It had become a symbol of intelligence, preparation, and unmatched resilience. On Earth, life continued almost as if nothing had happened. People walked through busy streets, children played in parks, and businesses operated in the usual rhythm. To the outside observer, the planet seemed untouched by war, unaware of the destruction that had fallen upon the Empire's fleet. But beneath the surface, humans were quietly analyzing the aftermath. Engineers, scientists, and strategists worked tirelessly, studying every encounter, every failure of the invaders, and every strength of their own defenses. Every detail was catalogued for the future. Humanity knew that survival was not just about victory. It was about learning and preparing for what might come next. The Empire, humiliated and shaken, struggled to understand what had happened. Their best fleets, their most advanced technology, and their centuries of experience had been rendered ineffective by a single planet. The invaders could not fathom how a species they had considered weak had defeated them with such precision and intelligence. Reports spread throughout the galaxy about Earth's capabilities. Other civilizations, once terrified of the Empire, began to whisper about the humans, speaking in hushed tones about a species that could strike anywhere, remain invisible, and protect its own without exposing itself. Humanity's victory had not been fueled by aggression or desire for conquest. There were no celebrations broadcast across the stars, no trophies taken from the defeated. The humans had acted out of necessity to protect their world and their people. They understood that power without wisdom could be dangerous, and they chose to exercise restraint. While the Empire had assumed humans would react with fear or desperation, they were met instead with calm, careful planning, and measured response. That restraint made the humans even more formidable. Deep within the hidden command centers of Earth, humans continued to refine their systems. They improved their defense networks, upgraded their drones, and strengthened their energy disruptors. Every simulation of potential future encounters was run repeatedly, testing the limits of their capabilities. They had learned a critical lesson from their first real battle with the Empire. The galaxy was unpredictable, and they could not afford to be unprepared. Every advancement was designed not for domination, but for survival and protection. Across the galaxy, the perception of humans changed almost overnight. For centuries, the Empire had enforced fear as a form of control. Now whispers of Earth's power spread faster than any fleet could travel. Other civilizations began to rethink their approach to the galaxy. Earth was no longer a planet to be ignored or conquered. It was a warning. Tales of the fleet destroyed by an invisible, precise, and intelligent force reached distant star systems, inspiring awe, fear, and respect. Humanity had become a silent guardian, a force that could not be challenged lightly. The Empire attempted to regroup, sending messages to other star systems to gauge potential support. They hoped to rally allies, rebuild their forces, and perhaps return to claim revenge. But the fear they had inspired in other civilizations now worked against them. Some systems that had once obeyed the Empire quietly began to resist, using the lessons learned from humanity's triumph as inspiration. A ripple of change spread across the galaxy, demonstrating that the actions of a single planet could alter the balance of power. Despite the recognition of their strength, humans did not take advantage of the Empire's weakened state. They understood that restraint and strategy were more powerful than aggression. Their focus remained on Earth, on protecting their people, and on preparing for the possibility that other threats might appear. Humanity's victory had taught the galaxy a lesson. True power is not measured by the size of your fleet or the weapons you possess, but by intelligence, preparation, patience, and the ability to act decisively when necessary. The surviving commanders of the Empire were forced to confront the terrifying reality. They had underestimated humans. Every assumption they had made about weakness, division, and technological inferiority had been proven wrong. Humans had mastered a level of preparation and strategic thinking that the Empire could not comprehend. The galaxy had long feared the Empire, but now a new force had emerged, a force that demanded respect, caution, and humility. On Earth, The people remained largely unaware of the wider galactic recognition of their strength. Daily life continued with a sense of normalcy that had been carefully maintained. Schools, businesses, and communities operated without interruption. The contrast between the calm, orderly surface of the planet and the chaos experienced by the invaders was stark. This duality, the visible simplicity of life and the hidden complexity of defense, was the key to humanity's success. The Empire had fought an enemy that seemed ordinary, only to discover a species capable of extraordinary feats. The humans who had directed the counterstrike and maintained the planet's defense remained in their hidden command centers, analyzing and refining. Every lesson from the battle was used to strengthen Earth's systems further. Drones were upgraded, rail cannons repositioned, and energy disruptors enhanced. Humanity's goal was not to conquer or intimidate, but to ensure that the planet remained safe. Their power was a shield, invisible yet formidable, and it would remain ready for any challenge. As news of the Empire's defeat spread through the galaxy, humans became a symbol. They were not worshipped, feared in the sense of tyranny, or glorified for conquest. They were respected for their intelligence, their patience, and their unwavering commitment to protecting their own. Other civilizations began to study humans quietly, trying to understand how such a species could achieve such control and precision without revealing its full capabilities. Earth had become a model of strategic thinking, unity, and restraint. The Empire, now fully aware of its miscalculation, understood that any future attempt to invade Earth would be met with complete and overwhelming opposition. They could no longer rely on fear or intimidation. Humans had proven that even the most powerful forces in the galaxy could be defeated through preparation, intelligence, and patience. The survivors of the fleet returned home with a story they would never forget, one that would haunt the Empire's history forever. Humanity's restraint continued to define their legacy. They had shown the galaxy that true strength is not about aggression, but about intelligence, preparation, and the ability to act decisively. The Empire's defeat became a turning point in galactic history, demonstrating that even the most dominant civilizations could be challenged by a species that understood strategy, patience, and unity. Earth was no longer just a planet. It had become a warning, a symbol, and a force that could not be ignored. Even centuries later, the story of this encounter would be studied, analyzed, and respected across the stars. Earth remained a world of ordinary people living ordinary lives. But beneath the surface, the planet's true power was unmatched. Humans had proven that survival required more than weapons or numbers. It required intelligence, preparation, patience, and unity. The galaxy had learned an important lesson: never underestimate humanity. In the end, the Galactic Empire's defeat was complete, and the aftermath reshaped the galaxy. Other civilizations began to approach Earth not as a target, but with caution and respect. The humans, having defended their planet and preserved their people, continued their work quietly, maintaining the balance between visible normalcy and hidden strength. Earth had become untouchable, not because of fear or tyranny, but because of intelligence, preparation, and the quiet, unwavering determination of its people. Humanity's triumph was not loud or dramatic. There were no grand celebrations, no parades, no displays of power. Instead, there was quiet pride, careful preparation, and continued vigilance. The galaxy would remember the lesson of Earth forever. A species underestimated at first glance could possess unimaginable strength. And the humans, calm and focused, would remain ready for whatever the future might bring.